Nobody expected the friendship that would reshape the future of women's basketball endorsements. In a sport dominated by rivalries, fierce competition, and corporate politics, it wasn't a game, a highlight reel, or a championship ring that sparked the most powerful shift in the WNBA this season. It was something far more rare. Something unexpected. Something human. A bond. A gesture. A moment of generosity wrapped in competitive fire and mutual respect, and it would send shockwaves through the sports business world. What began as a simmering on-court rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham has evolved into one of the most quietly revolutionary partnerships the WNBA has ever seen. In a league that often fights for the scraps of media attention and endorsement dollars, this unlikely alliance between one of the league's biggest stars and one of its fiercest role players has forced corporate giants like Nike to pay attention. Not because of hype, not because of marketing stunts, but because of what happened when generational wealth met authentic loyalty. Caitlin Clark, already hailed as the face of women's basketball, signed what was believed to be the most lucrative endorsement deal in the sport's history. An 8-year deal with Nike that includes a reported figure north of $28 million. That deal doesn't just come with a signature shoe. It comes with equity, ownership, creative control, and most importantly, leverage. The kind of leverage no woman in the WNBA has ever held before. But what Clark did next was something no one, not even Nike executives, anticipated. Instead of hoarding the spotlight, Clark chose to share it. Not through press releases or carefully coordinated social media posts, but through real action. Support. Collaboration. She made it clear that her success wouldn't exist in a vacuum. She wanted it to matter, to stretch further than herself. And in that spirit, she found an unlikely partner in Sophie Cunningham. Sophie, a gritty guard and 5-year WNBA veteran, had spent her career grinding through the league's margins. Drafted by the Phoenix Mercury and later traded to the Indiana Fever, her name rarely made headlines. She was the kind of player coaches loved, dependable, physical, clutch, but never flashy enough to earn signature deals or viral attention. Her three-point stroke was deadly. Her defensive hustle relentless. Yet, despite all this, Sophie's commercial profile remained minimal compared to the league's rising stars. But Clark saw something different in her. Not just toughness. Not just game. But a kind of backbone the Fever desperately needed. When Indiana brought Sophie in, fans assumed it was a strategic basketball move, a role player who could provide spacing, experience, and depth. What no one realized at the time was that Sophie Cunningham was about to become Caitlin Clark's fiercest protector, closest ally, and the unexpected face of a new era in women's sports endorsements. It began with whispers. Comments exchanged between the two. Social media interactions. A few moments caught on camera. Sophie backing up Caitlin in scrums. Caitlin praising Sophie's leadership in interviews. But behind the scenes, something deeper was happening. Something more permanent. Caitlin Clark wasn't just giving Cunningham moral support. She was sharing opportunities. Leveraging her massive social media following, now surpassing 5 million across platforms, to bring attention to her teammate. Featuring her in brand campaigns. Making sure her name appeared in press rundowns. In photo shoots. In meetings. Quietly, Caitlin was pulling Sophie into rooms she might not have entered alone. Nike noticed. Executives had already been adjusting their strategy to fit Clark's unprecedented cultural reach. Her rookie season transformed WNBA ratings, sent jersey sales into overdrive, and created a global commercial identity around a player who looked more like your next-door neighbor than a corporate machine. But Caitlin's insistence that Sophie be brought along, that she be seen, promoted, and platformed, created friction in a system built on hierarchy. And yet, it worked. Because Clark wasn't just selling sneakers. She was selling something more valuable. Authenticity. Sophie Cunningham's rise wasn't built on viral highlights or choreographed sponsorships. It was forged in the fire of loyalty. In moments when she threw herself in front of opponents charging at Clark. In the way she pulled Clark off the floor after hard fouls. In the scuffles, the screens, the stare-downs. It was clear, she wasn't just playing alongside Clark. She was protecting her. And fans noticed. When Sophie's jersey sold out in the hours after a game where she was ejected for defending Caitlin from another cheap shot, it wasn't a fluke. It was a movement. Fever fans saw themselves in her. Fierce, unafraid, loyal to the core. And Caitlin saw a mirror. Someone willing to put the team first. Someone who valued the game not for what it could give, but for what it could build. And so the friendship grew. Not in headlines, but in real-world moves. Caitlin began pushing for Sophie's inclusion in collaborative brand content. Interviews. Dual sponsorships. Even speaking directly to executives to highlight Cunningham's value to the team and the league. At first, it was subtle. But soon, it became strategy. Nike, sensing the potential, began adjusting. Cunningham started appearing in more promotional material. Her visibility increased. Her following surged. Suddenly, she wasn't just a bench spark plug, she was a co-star in the most watched drama in the WNBA. This wasn't charity. It was recognition. Clark understood something that the league had been slow to learn. Building a brand isn't just about celebrating stars. It's about celebrating storylines. And Sophie Cunningham, the underdog turned enforcer turned trusted lieutenant, was the perfect story. What they created together wasn't just a teammate bond. It was a blueprint. A model for how elite athletes can elevate their peers not just on the court, but at the bank, at the table, in the boardroom. This approach flies in the face of how endorsements have traditionally worked. For decades, sports marketing has been cutthroat. Players were pitted against each other for the biggest deals. Success was a solo climb. But what Caitlin and Sophie are showing is that collaboration doesn't dilute your brand, it amplifies it. And the numbers prove it. Since partnering more closely with Clark, Cunningham has seen her public profile triple. Jersey sales skyrocket. Her social engagement explode. For Nike, that means a broader reach. A more passionate fanbase. A narrative with depth. And for the WNBA, it means something even more valuable. A culture shift. We are witnessing a fundamental rewriting of how women's sports are marketed, consumed, and monetized. It's no longer about the singular icon. It's about ecosystems. It's about alliances that resonate not because they were manufactured, but because they're real. The connection between Clark and Cunningham isn't just powerful because of what they represent individually. It's powerful because of what they say about where women's sports is going. This is not about waiting for legacy systems to offer more. It's about building new ones. Together. And yet, behind the bright lights and sold-out merchandise, there's something even more rare happening. Trust. The kind of trust that can't be taught. Only earned. Clark knows what it means to be a target. She's endured more hard fouls, verbal jabs, and media scrutiny in her first 2 years than most players see in a decade. And when those moments came, Sophie was there. Not just as a teammate, but as a line in the sand. A signal that if you came for Clark, you weren't just facing one woman. You were facing the unit. That kind of bond is magnetic. Sponsors see it. Fans crave it. The league needs it.